welcome to the Excited Education channel, the YouTube channel, which brings you about mathematics and biology. So now we are going to discuss about biology on the point called cellular respiration. I'm Teacher Amy Chris on Michael, and now I would like to request each and everybody who is viewing this video on my channel first, if you don't make subscribe, just subscribe, share, comments, like. For any question, you are allowed to note it in the comments of this video. We are going to explain more about cellular respiration for the part of aerobic and for part of anaerobic. So the term cellular respiration, as usual, it refers to the biochemical pathway by which cell releases energy from the chemical bonds of food molecules and provide that energy for the essential process of life. So you have to know that all living cells must carry out cellular respiration. It requires the food particles or chemical molecules, food molecules, in order to carry out what? Respiration in cell. So, and it can be aerobic respiration in the presence of oxygen, or anaerobic respiration, so in absence of the oxygen. So prokaryotic cells carry out cellular respiration within the cytoplasm or on the inner surface of the cell. So more emphasis here will be placed on the eukaryotic cell, where the mitochondria are the site of most of the reactions, and the energy currents of this cell is what you call ATP, which means adenosine triphosphate. And one way to view the outcomes of cellular respiration is as a production process of ATP. So in cellular respiration, you have to know that it engages what we call glucose. Then glucose, it carries, or it takes place, or it take into the place of called glycolysis, where glycolysis released into the pyruvate and another product which is called TCA cycle, and those TCA cycle are the responsible to provide what we call 3 molecules of ATP. For that process of glycolysis, they produce 3 molecules of ATP. After, then it enters in the electron transport chain, where it also provides the appropriate ATP in the process that are likely to be carried out in that electron transport chain. So the aerobic respiration, it looks like this. So this takes place in presence of oxygen. The graphic below can serve as a reminder of some of the processes involved in the cellular respiration. You can watch this clearly. We have to first have the molecules of the glucose. So those molecules of the glucose, there is what we call cell membrane. So you have to know that cellular respiration first takes place inside of the cell, in the cytoplasm, where there are likely to be the organelles of the cell likely to be engaged in this process includes the mitochondria. The reason why mitochondria is full of energy in the among of the cellular organelles, this is because it is the site of what we call the storage of the ATP that are already manufactured or made by the process of the cellular respiration. So here also the mitochondria, it is the site of the electron transport chain, and in the electron transport chain, it is where we are likely to find that there are more molecules of ATP that are likely to be manufactured and stored in the mitochondria. So here we have a cell membrane, but glucose is out of the cell. Then it enters the cell through cell membrane in a process called the permeability, or where the cell membrane have a capacity of allowing the entrance of the substance, including glucose. So here after reached in the cytoplasm of the cell, it enters in a process called glycolysis. So that glycolysis, it converted, or glycolysis convert the glucose into NAD plus and NADH. NAD means nicotinamide adenosine diphosphate and nicotinilamide adenosine diphosphate hydrogen. So here in the process of converting the glucose into NAD plus and NADH plus, there is the release of ATP, one molecule. So after this, the glucose, there is what we call results of pyruvates. So those pyruvates, one goes into process of fermentation in the absence of oxygen, and it produces lactate. And another one molecule which is for pyruvate, because they provide the two three carbons. So 3 carbon means the pyruvate, one carbon and another 3 carbon means the another pyruvate. So why we call it 2,3 carbon? This is because this is the 2 molecules of pyruvate with the 3 carbons. So here it enters also in TCA cycle in the organelle called the mitochondrion. So here it is in presence of oxygen for it, whereas in the fermentation it is absence of oxygen. In this presence of oxygen, it produce or the NADH that produced in process of glycolysis, it also taken place into the process of electron transport chain in the mitochondrion, where it provided or it becomes NADH and FADH2. So these are the like catalyzer of the process of the respiration process. Here, in the mitochondrion, there is a release of ATP molecules. Those ATP molecules, it's like to be at least 3 molecules, and there is what you call carbon dioxide and water that are likely to be released. After this is in process of glycolysis. So if the fermentation process over and produce lactate, that lactate produced also it is transformed into glucose also, and then the process of glycolysis then starts. So here they are active graphic. If you want to understand more about this, and it is in active form. So you can use this link on the Google, then you can watch it clearly. Then cellular respiration produces carbon dioxide, as I said, as metabolic waste. This carbon dioxide binds with water to form a carbonic acid. This helping to maintain the blood's pH. This carbonic acid is able or have a capacity of maintenance to the blood's pH. Since too much carbon dioxide would lower the blood's pH too much. So here it can be produced on the minimum way or on the normal way, such that if it becomes too much, it lowers pH or blood pH, and the removal of that excess carbon dioxide must be accomplished on the ongoing basis. So one of the interesting things about cell respiration is that it is part of an essential universal, or what we call toolkit, that characterizes all of life, at least for life involving eukaryotic cell. So simply means the cellular respiration or cell respiration it is the toolkit for the universal or life. So because it's like where there is the storage of all requirements for the real life. So the common energy toolkit for almost all life. As we said, this process of cellular respiration in process of glycolysis. Here there is what we call in the process of glycolysis, as we find that there is a production of one molecule of ATP in cytosol. So there is we can call it life nutrients processor, and even for that TCA cycle in the mitochondrion, and the mitochondrion can be called a life energy factory, and these molecules that are likely to be produced in form of ATP can be also called life fuel. So in the glucose can be a basic nutrient for life, and the energy handling processes for all of life have many common elements. And here you have to know that there is what we call aerobic respiration. For aerobic respiration or cellular respiration in the presence of oxygen, it uses the end product of the glycolysis. So these are pyruvates. So in the TCA cycle, to produce much more energy current in the form of ATP than can be obtained from any aerobic pathway, aerobic respiration is characteristic of a eukaryotic cell. When they have a sufficient oxygen, and most of it takes place in the mitochondria. So anaerobic respiration, the first step in the cellular respiration is all living cell. So the first step in cellular respiration in all living cells is the glycolysis. As usual, as I said, it takes place in the presence of glucose, so which can take place without the presence of the molecular oxygen. And if oxygen is present in the cell, then the cell can subsequently take advantage of aerobic respiration via the TCA cycle. So to produce much more usage energy in the form of ATP than in an anaerobic pathway. So nevertheless, the anaerobic pathways are important and are the sole source of ATP for the many anaerobic bacteria. For a eukaryotic cell also resort to anaerobic pathway if their oxygen support is slow. For instance, when muscle cells are working very hard and exhaust their oxygen supply, they utilize the anaerobic pathway to lactic acid to continue to provide ATP for cell function. So this is a process what we call anaerobic respiration. It takes place in absence of the oxygen. So it breaks down those food molecules or glucose in the body, in the cell, in order to make what we call lactic acid. And those lactic acid is capable to advance to the process of or to the functions of the cell. So glycolysis itself yield to ATP first. You have to know that. So it is the first step of anaerobic respiration. So there is what we call pyruvate. Those pyruvate, the product of glycolysis, can be used in fermentation to produce ethanol and NAD plus or nicotinamide enzyme, then diphosphate for the production of lactate and NAD plus. So the production of NAD plus is crucial because glycolysis requires it even and would case when its supply was exhausted. So here that's why the NAD plus is absent or is important in the process of glycolysis because it can be required to be supplied when the NAD plus H is in absence. So resulting in the cell death, a general sketch for the anaerobic steps is shown below. It follows Krebs organization. This is the process C. We have the molecule of the glucose first, then it enters in the process of glycolysis providing the molecules of pyruvate. Then this chemical structure, it is what the chemical structure for the pyruvate. So the pyruvate, we find that it provides what we call lactate. So lactate provided and even carbon dioxide released in the process of what we call pyruvate decarboxylase as the enzyme, and lactate dehydrogenase can be produced in NAD plus. So NAD plus also produced and hydrogen ion produced in the process of dehydrogenase. So but HC coenzyme also is in presence. After this, it enters or it provides the lactate and acetaldehyde. So after providing acetaldehyde and lactate, the acetaldehyde enters in the process of formation of alcohol or the alcohol dehydrogenase, This is in the presence of like enzyme and providing ethyl alcohol. Then and in this process of alcohol dehydrogenase, there is also products that are likely to be provided, which are hydrogen ion and NAD plus. So this is the fermentation aerobic oxidation of NADH. So here S-CoA also involved after releasing NAD plus and NADH plus hydrogen ion for providing acetyl-CoA. For acetyl-CoA, it enters also in aerobic pathway via TCA cycle. So aerobic respiration, both glycolysis and fermentation, takes place in the fluid portion of the cytoplasm, whereas the bulk of the energy yield of aerobic respiration take place in mitochondria. So in aerobic respiration leaves a lot of energy in the ethanol or lactate molecules that the muscle cell cannot use and muscle must excrete. So a portion of the lactate will reach the liver through the bloodstream and may be converted back to glucose through the Krebs cycle. So the ethanol can be metabolized by the liver, but it is poor precursor for the gluconeogenesis and may lead to hypoglycemia. So this is that ethanol that was provided in the process after lactate to be converted, and this can be harm, causing hypoglycemia. And here it is the end of the cellular respiration. We find that different processes that are likely to be taking place, but especially we talk about glycolysis process, where it provides some molecules of ATP. So this is the process of glycolysis as the first part of the cellular respiration. See you next. Thank you for watching my video. Better make subscribe, comment, share and like, such that you can follow the next steps.